All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special meeting of Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm David Vogel, Judge Executive. Happy to have all of you here tonight who have come, and especially our police officers who have come for this presentation tonight. Thank you guys and ladies for coming, but we welcome everybody who's here tonight. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll ask Holly Prane to please call the roll.
Magistrate Likens.
Here.
Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Woosley.
Here.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Here.
Magistrate Hounds.
Here.
Magistrate Dye.
Present.
Magistrate Logston.
Present.
Magistrate Hawkins. Here. Thank you, sorry. And Judge Vogel.
Here. Having all members of the fiscal court present, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All right, since this is a special meeting, we won't be changing any items on the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Our first item on any meeting is our public comment meeting. Is there anyone who's come to speak here to any reason of a normal agenda item?
Minutes, Judge.
Pardon?
The minutes.
Okay. I didn't approve the minutes. All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
So moved.
All right. That was March 4th. Any corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, anyone who has come to address the fiscal court about some other item on the agenda tonight other than our presentation? All right, seeing no one, I'll close public comment, go on to the first item. We have a couple of things to take care of in routine business before the presentation, but that would be our payables for 2 weeks, pay the bills every 2 weeks.
Motion to pay the bills.
Second.
Are there any questions on the bills? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Contracts and resolutions, we've got a 2024 Ram 5500 truck purchase for the road department. Somebody want to make that?
Judge, I'll move that we approve the $89,915 for the pre-purchase authorization for the road department.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any questions on that purchase?
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
I just want to clarify, it's a 2024 Ram 5500 with 11-foot dump body, but will we be surplusing any vehicles? Or is this just going to be added to the fleet? We will be?
Yes, we're going to surplus the.
That's all I got.
We'll pick the least desirable truck we have in the fleet and move it out.
We're not going to get much money for it. You talk about it like that, Judge.
I don't know. You never know. Sometimes we go on govdeals.com and you actually get a better response than you think you might. Magistrate Hawkins.
Do I understand this is a used vehicle?
Pardon?
Do I understand this to be a used vehicle, being 2024?
No, it's a new
new,
vehicle.
okay.
It just was, from last year.
Okay.
Wasn't purchased. All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We have a change of status here. Kevin Padilla, who was a Parks Department employee, is now working for, we're going to suggest for the road department as equipment operator 1 at $18 an hour. I'll make that recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Discussion. Well, are we going to replace him in the parks? Or is he just going to be taking, like, mowing the grass, or was this discussed in the Parks Department?
Oh, who's Parks Committee? Anybody discuss that with you?
No, we're not going to replace him in the parks right now, so. No.
Thank.
All of our Parks Department maintenance employees have gone on to be merged into the road department, and road department's handling roads and parks now. All right, so.
That's what I thought.
Right. Anyone else? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Do we have anything else? All right, now we're going to get to the item about the police department. And you ready? Before we do that, I've got some preliminary remarks to make and things to look at. We're here tonight to discuss a new headquarters for Oldham County Police. The new headquarters will be a significant investment in public safety. The proposed building, which will be shown in a few minutes, is designed to accommodate the department's future growth, improve operational readiness, and enhance public safety. Now, speaking for myself, I am not in favor of a just get by now or push the problem ahead sort of building, something for the next 5 or 10 years. I believe we need an attractive, well thought out, weather-resistant building designed for 50 years or more, if we can make it go. Our county continues to be a home for an increasing number of people and will likely continue on that path for decades to come. Oldham Reserve and other locations for future employment are being built out. A new facility is needed to keep up with our growing county. Now, I realize that not everyone in Oldham County wants the county to continue growing. But unless the county buys and holds all the vacant farmland, growth is impossible to stop. The county is either increasing or decreasing. There is no option to stand still. The design of a new police headquarters must be consistent with the department's increasing mission, technical advances in law enforcement, and our vision for Oldham County. A few years ago, we built a new Oldham County Detention Center. It's been a great success. We've been very pleased with the functionality and the efficiency of the detention center, built by the same architectural firm you're going to meet here tonight. We've received many compliments from other law enforcement agencies, which have both toured and used our county facility. Because of our partnership with AT&T, we now have countywide internet for everyone, the first county in Kentucky to have high-speed service available to every resident. A beautiful new courthouse dominates our main street in LaGrange and will be completed by the end of the summer. A much-needed new animal resources building and adoption center is going to open shortly to replace a completely exhausted building that we've used for a long time. Parking facilities have been expanded and paved at the youth football and South Oldham Little League. Our renovated county pool with the giant slide is going to open again in about 60 days. Schomback Park has a new pavilion, restrooms, and other improvements that are coming this year. The former Methodist Church building next to Fiscal Court has been renovated and will open in a few weeks as a new community event space. We've built new roads and have promising business development and employment opportunities just over the horizon in Oldham Reserve and other areas. Now, since everything seems to happen in our county should be a reflection of ourselves, new projects are scrutinized for their architectural impact. Architecture reveals our values, points to our history, and reinforces our aspirations as a county. Time does not stand still. When I moved to Oldham County in 1975, the population was about 16,000. Oldham County Police did not exist. By 1978, when the department began operations with 4 officers, the county population had increased to 22,000. By 1997, Oldham County's population was 42,679, and there were 18 officers. Today, we have 46 sworn officers and more than 70,000 people living here. Our current police headquarters was built in 1997. It has 8,482 square feet, houses a chief, 2 majors, 4 sergeants, 3 staff secretaries, and a larger meeting room for other officers. It has narrow hallways and is very jammed up evidence room and storage and property areas. County detectives are housed next door to the police headquarters in a 4,000 square foot building vacated a few years ago by the UK Extension Service, giving us a total of 11,996 square feet for both buildings. The building for detectives is functional to a point, but lacks storage and space for confidential interviews, dealing with children there, and interrogations for criminals. Vehicles taken by Oldham County Police are examined for evidence, and they're stored in 5 bays in the Old County Road Garage. Our responsibility for these vehicles can run into many years. Among areas desperately needing improvement are the evidence and property storage areas in our police headquarters. Evidence is packed and secured into the system using one of 15 various size lockers until a custodian transfers them into a secure evidence room. The designated space for the general property is organized in boxes and on shelves, but as you can see from the photos we're showing here, we're close to running out of space. The storage space for confiscated drugs waiting to be processed for destruction is filled to capacity, and recent cases have been placed in totes in the hallway. Evidence has to constantly be shifted around to gain access to whatever is behind something. Oversized, heavy, bulky items are stored on the floor near a garage door leading to the back parking lot. The supply room holds all kinds of evidence with nowhere to go. The armory has 3 firearms instructors and 4 armorers in a very small space, which doesn't really allow them any room for collaboration, which is often required for these officers to do their jobs effectively. Our current police facilities have limited space for handling confidential interviews. We have no space for specialized training. We also lack room for going through video information, which has to be processed for open records requests. Since going to body cams, these consuming requests are coming more and more frequently and have become burdensome to a point. We do not have a sally port for police at the current time. There is no additional space for innovations which might come about in the future. Our main building is not ADA compliant. There is no sprinkler system. We are below current severe weather standards for public buildings. And there are other issues too, but I'm not going to keep on going on with that. The proposal to buy Open Range in Crestwood was first presented to us as a unique practice facility for our law enforcement personnel, sheriff, and jail staff, all of whom require annual firearms practice and training. And the fiscal court members liked this idea too when it came up. But eventually we came around to believing the cost and upkeep was only too much for us to use this as a practice facility. It was not until the thought emerged that this could be a good location for a much-needed police headquarters that the court decided to buy the building and the pistol and the rifle firing range equipment for a total of $2.1 million. 2 other pieces of property next door to the Open Range have also been acquired, a 7-acre wooded lot to the east and a parcel with a building on it to the west. Architecture, design, and layout say something to both the community, our employees, and our future officers that we try to recruit. The difference between our existing headquarters and the new building is profound. Our goal is a state-of-the-art building which will reflect the community's pride in our current staff and continuing desire to attract and employ the best among police officers. With a new headquarters, we face the same situation we've been forced to solve with the courthouse, and that's the increased cost of everything. The global pandemic a few years ago caused significant disruptions in supply chains and exacerbated a shortage of skilled trade workers. The result of these forces has created significant cost escalation in the construction market, in some cases as much as up to 20% in a year. You know, if you go around and mention Oldham County to other people around the country, most of them have never heard of us. But we've done some research here on other new facilities around the country, and they're places that we've never heard of either. But regardless where they might be, the same circumstances are being managed. The first building I'd like you to look at is in Williamsburg, Virginia. You see it has 15,000 people live there. It's a 43,000 square foot building. Completed this fall, $19.2 million is the projected cost. In Michigan City, Indiana, did I skip something? Okay. Salem, New Hampshire, sorry. 30,000 people live there. The building, 31,600 square feet, $33.2 million. It's going to start this year. Now we've got Michigan City, Indiana, another 30,000 plus city, 42,000 square feet, a $13 million building. Please note, however, it was completed in 2016. Well, that's 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. So, and it started before then. So that costs more than would cost more today. We've got St. Charles, Illinois, 32,000, 56,000 square foot, $24 million cost, completed 5 years ago. Here's Lacey, Washington, 58,000 people live there, another 42,000 square foot building, $43 million cost. That started last year. A couple other places, Melbourne, Florida. This is a bigger place, 75,000 square feet, 48.6, supposed to be done this year. Here's Allen, Texas, a little bigger yet, 100,000 square feet, $90 million, completed in 2027, according to what they project. And Olathe, Kansas, even bigger place, 85,000 square feet, a $28 million cost, completed last year. So you get the idea that other people are facing these things. They're replacing their worn-out structures. They're building things. They're stepping up. I think everything you saw there reflects what the people in those communities think is appropriate architecture for their community. We're living in the greatest county in the state of Kentucky, and I hope that when we get through with this, everybody will say, hey, we're proud of what we have. This is ours for the long run, and we're proud of our officers. We're proud of our department. We're proud of the way our community steps up. Now I'd like to introduce to you our architects for the night. And we have from JKS Architects in Hopkinsville, we have architect Keith Sharp and Josh Vaughn, right? Pardon? Vernon, Josh Vernon, okay. Should have wrote that down, okay. All right, take it away, guys.
Judge, can I interject one?
Yes, sir.
Just as a point of order, I've been the county attorney for a couple of years. We've only had special meetings when we had to move things to pay the bills. So just to be careful about what's going on since we're having this night meeting, I reached out to Keiko just to be clear about what we've got on the agenda. And what's on the agenda is the presentation by these gentlemen. And my understanding from Mr. Ornstein is that we are limited to their presentation and questioning of them by the magistrates. There's not supposed to be any discussion or voting that occurs because that's not something that's listed on the agenda. And I just wanted to make sure the magistrates understood they're not supposed to be going back and forth. They're supposed to be having a conversation directly with when they want to ask questions of our architect or the gentleman he's brought with him.
Did you want to repeat that last sentence?
They-
We were just discussing, after their architect's presentation, the magistrates are going to discuss with them what they presented.
With him, yes, sir,
Right.
absolutely. But they're not supposed to be having discussion with each other, is what Mr. Ornstein told me, because it's not something that's listed on the agenda. I provided him with a copy of the agenda.
Okay, I'm going to ask that from now on, when you talk to Keiko, you discuss it with me before the meeting, not during the meeting.
Okay.
I don't appreciate that, honestly. All right, now go ahead, Keith.
Judge, before we start, I'm sure that Mr. Sharp's going to refer to pages in here.
Mr. Dye, can you use your microphone?
I'm sorry, I'm not talking. Are you going to be referring to this here by page numbers? By chance?
Page numbers that show up on the slide as we go through.
Okay, well, I just want, so there's no confusion as we move forward through this. You've got 4 page numbers missing between page 1 and 26. And then from 17 to 27, there's 3 pages with no numbers. So I just want to make sure you understand that this is not in necessarily, it may be in the correct order, but not to prove it by the page numbers. So you may want to make sure that everybody's on the same page you're on when you're talking.
Okay.
Just point of contention there.
Well, we'll try to get it right. How about that?
Well, I have total faith in you.
All right, well, want to express to you my greetings and thank you for having us here tonight, Judge Vogel, members of the Fiscal Court, and certainly again for another opportunity for us to serve Oldham County. My name's Keith Sharp. I'm with JKS Architecture, and as already been mentioned just previously, Josh Vernon, our design architect, is also with us tonight. The last time I appeared before you was about 10 years ago, and we were discussing the jail project in various details, much like what we're doing tonight. And Mr. Dye, you remember us and Mike Simpson, we all worked together for several years and walked away with a very successful project there.
Well, there were other magistrates too, so.
Well, you were mainly involved, as I recall. And today we appear before you to give you a status report of the Oldham County's Police Department facility that we're in the process of designing. Just a few key points looking back over the last year that I want to share with you that we have actually done that you may or may not be aware of. In January of '24, I was notified that you guys had purchased a facility, Crestwood. That's the firing range building that you've already taken a look at on the slide. In April of '24, I met with the county officials and at the Crestwood facility, and we discussed the goals for the project. And those in very much detail, but foremost was the goal to make this project a facility that would serve Oldham County for at least 50 years. That was at the top of the list priority-wise. In May of '24, you approved our proposal and issued to us a design services contract. In June, July, and August, we and my staff toured your existing facilities, took notes of the conditions and so forth, measured the facility at Crestwood, and created a digital model of the building at Crestwood. We gathered data from the police department and county officials pertaining to the department's current size, what its services are, and so forth. And we made projections for not only the present needs, but for future needs and growth. In September of 2024, we presented to the police department and the county officials the first draft of the building space program. The building space program is simply a written document that outlines all the spaces that are in the facility by name, use, and size. And we later in that month had an in-depth review of the building space program with the county officials and the officials from the police department. We went through the program line by line. It was a 12-page document, and each space in the building was examined by, is it needed or not? Revisions were made to that design program at that time. In October of 2024, you engaged the services of a land surveyor and a geotechnical engineer, and they began their work and have provided us preliminary information for land survey and soil conditions at the property at Crestwood. In October of 2024, based upon the program revisions that we made, a high-level organizational diagram was prepared and presented to the police department and county officials for a high-level approval of the direction that we were moving in, and that was, at that stage in time, was approved. In December of 2024, the first schematic design was completed and presented likewise to the police department and county officials, along with an initial probable cost for construction. At this stage, the addition was 27,000 square feet. The existing building renovated area was 18,100 square feet. It was determined in this meeting that we should take another look at the project and see if we could reduce the cost of it by 20%. So we left that meeting and came back in February, having reduced the project by 20%. And it's been redesigned, and the iteration that we're going to share with you tonight is that 20% reduction from where we were in December. I do want to point out 3 or 4 little noteworthy things before I turn the presentation over to Josh. And the design includes provisions for growth. There's been consideration in the site master planning for future expansion. We have determined the best use of the existing building to be a training center. The new construction is to be essential facility compliant. The spaces provided in design are based upon the need as was determined by extensive interviews with the users and those representing the county, and also tempered by our professional judgment and experience. All probable costs, to the best of our ability to understand them, are being disclosed to the extent that we do know them, and the design team is and has been proactive to provide Oldham County with a quality facility. So let's move to the next slide. Just want to point out who the members of the design team are. JKS Architecture and Interior Design, we're the architectural team. The civil engineers, Bell Engineering. They have offices in Lexington and Hopkinsville. Our structural engineers, K&S Engineers in Clarksville, Tennessee, and Markham Engineering for the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. With the exception of Bell, this is the same design team that was engaged on the jail project. So I want to hand it over to Josh. He's our design architect for the project, and he'll share with you what the facility contains and how we arrived at what we're showing you.
Thank you, Keith, for the summary of where we've been, and Judge Vogel for a great description of what it took on your end to get to where we're at today. What we want to do first is just describe the process that we've gone through to arrive at where we're at today. Some of the decisions that were made have been informed in many different ways, and we are often going back and forth between design concepts to marry that or to work with the budget, the program, and the needs for the facility to make sure that everything comes together in a holistic solution that is successful by addressing all of those needs. So first, in assessing the site, as we looked at this initially, and this is an initial sketch that we presented as we looked at the program that we went through and vetted to determine that it was accurate not only for the current needs of the police department, but also for some future growth and needs that were coming in the near and foreseen future, to accommodate those needs, and then for that 20-plus year aspect, plan for future needs so that growth was available on site and easy to be accomplished at some point in the future when a building may need to expand for that growth. And so in this diagram, you can see the light color there is the outline of the open range building, the current facility on this property at the end of Cross Keys Boulevard. And as we assessed the existing square footage and some of the spaces that needed to remain just as they are versus those that could be modified to accommodate some of the program and needs, it became very apparent to us that an addition to the building was going to be required in order to accomplish the needs of the program and the needs of the department. And so we looked at the site in many different ways. In fact, initially we were looking at additions to the east and the entrance side on Cross Keys Boulevard. Coming to the end of that lane, if you've been down there and visited the site, you'll see that it really is a one-way in, one-way out site as it currently exists. And with the civic aspect of a police department, and also adding into that the component of a training facility with the firing ranges, we felt that there was a large benefit to be given to this building and the development to create a public entry and also give the police department access to I-71 and Veterans Memorial Parkway. And so as we assess the property, and in this sketch doesn't show the portion of it to the that was purchased there to the west, but as the entire site began to be developed, it became more and more apparent that an access to the site from Veterans Memorial and that portion of Crestwood was going to be very advantageous, not only for a public access to the site, but also giving a separate and distinct entry for the training aspects of the building, but also for the police department and their vehicles being able to access the site in ways that would accommodate their patrol vehicles and not have a lot of congestion between that and public entry. And so as we assess these different components to the project, it became apparent to us that a good proposed solution was going to be that the addition to this building be to the north of the existing building and accommodate some of these vehicular and access needs. Some of the other things that aren't necessarily building components that needed to be a part of the site are an impound lot, as you saw from the current garages that have impound vehicles. There's a need that's already been met and needs a lot more space just for the storage of evidence vehicles. And then in addition to that, the public parking and patrol vehicle access is currently shared behind the police department, but can be accomplished or can be much an advantage to the building to have your patrol vehicles behind secured gates and in an area that is protected there on the site. And it separates that from the access to the site for the public so that that public interface and interaction with the building is much more accommodating and welcoming to any that might be coming to or needing to be at the police department. Other components that informed the solution as we started to place program elements on the site are simple things like responses to the context. So we have a residential area to the north of us. That area, as you saw in the initial sketch there on page 3, is a great location for future expansion, but we also have a great buffer of forest there to the residential areas, and the same thing with the park and landscape areas on the east side of the property. And the other components really start to lend into the architecture, which is, as we start to create new spaces, we're always looking at ways that those spaces can interact with exterior spaces, that they can be enhanced and feel more comfortable with the introduction of natural daylight and things like that. And so there was a lot of things that started to fall into place as we looked at the needs of the addition going to the north. And one thing that Keith touched on that was also an important aspect to determining what would be configured as a part of the existing building and what could be accommodated in a new addition was the aspect of essential facilities. And so that may or may not be something you're aware of, but facilities that accommodate public need, meaning fire departments, police departments, hospitals, things like that, have a standard that needs to be maintained on their structure by code that exceeds the standard building. The snow loads, rain loads, wind loads, everything affecting that building has to be increased so that those buildings and those facilities, they're called essential facilities, can operate even in more extreme weather incidents. And so by having the addition be to the north, we were able to have all of those essential components of the facility contained in that addition, and then components like the firing ranges and some of the training aspects to be contained in the existing building allowed for our most essential parts and services of the police department to be constructed in a facility that would meet those standards. So as we look at a floor plan view of our existing building shown here in gray, and I'll just take one moment because I want to address your question about the page numbers. The missing pages are redundant. You'll see as I zoom in and out, I didn't want to print the same sheet over and over. And so as I zoom in and out of the plan, I'll go back to the overall, and that'll be your missing page, and then I'll zoom in again, and that'll be the next sheet that's there.
Just wanted to make sure there
Yep.
wasn't something missing.
Nope, nothing missing. It was just so that we didn't have a lot of pages that were redundant in your package. So the gray area shown there is your existing building, and it's 38,500 square feet. As a part of that, there are some areas that are not changing at all. We have a long rifle range and 2 short firing ranges, and those will remain as is. They're operating, and they will remain in operation just as they are. And then some of the other aspects we'll get into in that renovated area are things that pertain mostly to the training aspects of the police department. And then you see the new construction there in blue. That new construction is currently at 23,188 square feet, and this is all on single level. And then this is just kind of a cut through so you can kind of see the aspect of this floor plan and the different components. We've broken down the program into these categories or subgroups of the overall program. And you can see them listed there as the public lobby and administration areas, the criminal investigation, the patrol division, some common areas, evidence storage, and then the training division. And so as we get into these various areas, this is where we'll zoom in and out of the floor plan. But I'm going to walk you through the way the program has come together and the reasons for why we've put different divisions and parts of the program where we're at. So we're on page 7 there in your packet. And on this part, your packet will skip a few pages, but we'll zoom in and out. And so first, zooming into our public lobby and our administration areas. This is located to the westernmost portion of the site. So as you saw those site diagrams, this is where the public access to the site and the public interaction with the building would first come in. And we've got some architectural renderings we'll show you here shortly of what that looks like on the outside. But as you come into that public lobby in the yellow area there, this is a secure area where the public can come in and interface with clerical staff and have a small waiting area and a restroom. And this is controlled so that those that come to interact with the police have a welcome place as they come into the building. It was our intention not to have this oversized, as it's not something like you would have in a library or something where there's people gathered all the time, but comfortable enough that you can come in and be in a space where you interface with the police department before you come to that secure level and interact further as you come into the building. So as you come in through that customer room, you have our administration department, which consists of our police chief, and there's 3 majors located in this administration area with a conference room that would be not only for the administration but interaction with the public in this area. So if there was a conference room or meeting area that was utilized with the public and the police department, it would be in this area. And then as a support area to the clerical area, the clerical staff, we've got a workroom, vault, and some storage, just supplies and those kinds of things, and then a couple of restrooms. The records processing that you see there is a location as we determined the needs with the police department. There's a lot of public that need to come and go through public records, look at body cam footage, that kind of thing. And there needed to be a space set aside to where the public could come and spend the time that they need to go through public records in a place that was secure but also separated from the flow and the busyness of an office area. And so this is kind of the summary of the administration area. The break room that you see there is located where it is because it has nice visual access to an exterior area, but also it's close to and a part of the administration area, but borders our criminal investigation area just to the east of it, and so that's a shared space that will happen between the two. So as we zoom in there on page 10 to the criminal investigation area, you can see we have a sergeant office, and this sergeant is a part of the police department staff that interacts very heavily with administration, but is also needs that interface with the criminal investigation department. And then in addition to that office, we have 6 detectives and then some interview rooms. And the interview rooms in this area are kept close to that administration area because this is where they would interview a child or somebody who is not handcuffed, very much a soft interview room. And so there's 2 of those rooms and a child interview room, and this is very much intended to feel like a safe space so that as somebody sits in the public lobby or as they're introduced into this space, they are in a more public aspect of the building and can interact with officers as needed without getting into the more private aspects of the police department. Obviously, the detectives' offices need to be close to these interview rooms because they'll be the individuals that are utilizing those spaces and interacting with the public in those areas. We do have 1 clerical staff that interacts between the detectives and those being interviewed, and so there's a space for that as well in this area. And then a conference room, and this is the main conference room for the entire building. So the previous one that you saw in the administration area is a little bit smaller. This one could accommodate a bigger group and meet the needs of pulling more people together for any meeting needs. And then a men's and women's room. This would be shared not only by the criminal investigation area, but also the patrol area that we'll get into next. So zooming back out, you can see that it's kind of a greenish blue on this screen. Patrol division. We'll zoom in on that area and I'll walk you through that. So as we come down and further east from the criminal investigation area, we've got an officer work center, which is eight stations, and this is where your officers would come in. There's an exterior door located right there close. This is where they would come in and file reports. And so a lot of the officers, their workspace is their car, but they do need to come in and have a space to file reports and interact with sergeants. And so we've located our 6 sergeants adjacent to this officer work center so that the interaction is easy as they come and go. But there are the sergeants that will be in their offices and have private spaces there. The electronics that you see right there is you can see kind of an in and out. There is body cams, radios, there's all kinds of electronics on our officers' uniforms. And as they come and go and need to charge those elements, that electronics room is a space for housing those and charging those as officers come and go out of their shifts. As we move a little bit south of that area, we have a very large space that can be split up into a couple areas. So the needs for the patrol area is to have a classroom set up, but also a patrol room for morning reports and things like that, and assignments to be made. And we're accommodating both needs with a space that could then have a movable partition in the middle of it so that when they pull everybody together, they have a room large enough to do that. And so this is a space, and it's strategically located close to the break room so that when they do have an event where a lot of people are in that space, they can pull any refreshments or drinks, that kind of thing, out of that break room for any needs that are needed. And so that break room that's associated there has an outdoor space adjacent to it as well, so it's very accommodating for that break type space to interact indoors and out, and large enough that if there's a need to cater food or something like that, very easily accommodated through that outdoor courtyard and brought down to the patrol room for bigger groups or right there in the break room. Some of the support spaces you start to see fall in, which is our field gear, uniform storage. There's a secondary dispatch area. And then right there next to that secondary dispatch area is another entrance into the patrol area. And so part of it is because by code you have to be able to get in and out of a building every so frequently. But also this, you'll see in the way that this is designed and adjacent on site, the area just to the east of this or down on your screen is the the patrol car parking area that's a secure parking area. And so the interaction between patrol cars and the building itself are going to happen in this area. And so that's one main entrance, and the other's down by the Officer Work Center. But the comings and goings of your officers are going to be in this area of the building, and so there's really two points of access for ease of access to this part of the building. And then you see listed there the other two spaces in this division of the building are your resource officers. That's similar to your Officer Work Center. These are officers that are coming and going from your schools and things like that. But they also need a space, and so they're in a shared office and then a small meeting room that will happen primarily for officers as they need to gather in a group and have a small meeting. You'll notice in the chief's office there in the admin area that it was sized large enough for a small meeting table, but in the patrol area, there's not really a larger office where multiple officers could meet, so there's a small meeting area to accommodate those types of meetings. So our next area is just kind of a catch-all, but have labeled it as common areas. And as we zoom in on that, first and foremost is as far as size, is the automobile evidence lab. And this is on page 14. That's set up so that there's really a lot of action that happens in that space. You've got wreckers bringing vehicles in that need to be examined and for evidence and may stay in there for a while before they're put into the impound lot. You've got access to bring in somebody who might be handcuffed and need to be interviewed. And so they're going to come into a space to where they can be taken from a vehicle and taken to an interview room without the risk of being in an exterior area, just it being much more of a secure level. And then just the aspect of the evidence processing that can happen in that space. There's a little bit more room in there for the things that may need to be pulled off to the side as they are going through the legal process. As you come down from there, so just down that hallway and to the left on your screen there, you see two interview rooms that are labeled hard interview rooms. This is where somebody would come in and be handcuffed to a table as they are interviewed by detectives or others that need to interface with them. And then off to the right, you see much more support type spaces. So we have a mechanical room on the far right, electrical room and data equipment, SWAT equipment, ammunition, and non-lethal weapons such as tasers and things like that. And then getting into your men's and women's locker room. So your officers, as they come in their street clothes and put on their uniforms or have blood and need to wash off, or they're coming and using the gym or things like that. Obviously, that's what those locker rooms are for. And so these are our common areas or support areas to the different divisions, and don't necessarily house individuals and staff, but are needed in order to operate the facility. So then, zooming out again, the next area we'll go to is our evidence area there in it's kind of a pink salmonish color. As you come in, so many of you, I'm sure, are very aware of the process, but they can be bringing anything from a gun safe down this hallway to drugs and guns and things like that. And so as that comes in through the sally port or the automobile evidence storage area, it'll come down into this waiting area where the evidence manager has eyes on it and has control over this entire area, and then into the evidence passage area. So you saw that one picture that Judge Vogel showed of those lockers that were recessed into the wall, which is where you pass evidence through. We have about 5 to 6 times as much ability to pass that evidence through now, which is one of the needs that is definitely undermet in the current circumstances. And so there's a lot more capacity now to bring in and place evidence in those lockers, and then it can stay there until it passes and gets its way through the processing component and then into storage. So it goes from those lockers into the evidence processing area and then may be housed in multiple locations depending on what it is. So there's firearm storage, computer storage, isolation, and ventilated, and then a large space for general storage. And as a part of these spaces, those images that you saw before of the current evidence storage areas had a lot of racks and boxes. And although things will be stored in bags and boxes as they're processed, we'll have a rolling storage system to where a lot more can be accommodated. Not only is this a lot more square footage for evidence, but it'll be able to be more tightly packed in there because of the storage systems that we'll be using in those areas. And then the last component is the training division. And this is something a little bit unique to your department, but as we've learned about it, it's not only something that is quite a benefit to you all, but seen as quite attractive to some of the other police departments that are interacting with your department. So you currently have and are utilizing these firing ranges, numbers 1, 2, and 3, and you have other departments from other municipalities that are coming, and it's actually a source of revenue for your department to be able to use these. This becomes a great opportunity to add to that with tactical training abilities and virtual training abilities, to where not only can your officers benefit from the use of and get the training needed in these tactical training areas and in the virtual training areas, but other departments can as well. And as they interface with your training areas, becomes a source of revenue to your county. Some of the support spaces for this training to happen, obviously there's a training officer that would be over and an interface with your department coming and going, but also other departments that come and train. And then a range manager as well, who is there located close to the access to firing ranges 1 and 2. You may pick up on or note, but it's important to point out that where you see the dark black lines, those indicate where we're coming in with renovated or new additions or modifying what's there. And where you see the lighter gray indication of walls and doors, that's where we're leaving what's there in place. And so there's a lot of this building, as you see it today, that is remaining in place. Those range storage and range ammo and the firearms repair, your restrooms and the firing ranges and mechanical areas and storage areas, and even that classroom is very much in a space that currently works, and a small break room. Those are all spaces that currently exist and are very accommodating to the needs of that training area and training facility, with minimal expense on renovation. And so we will be coming back in so that things that need to be repaired and things that need to be taken care of are addressed. But there's a lot of already in place architecture in that building that we can leave as is and let it be a benefit to you for the purchase that you've made. And again, to reiterate, these aspects that you see on the screen right now are the components that will fall under that existing building, because in the event of an extreme weather event, if there's a tornado or something that damages the building, your training facility is not as critical to responding to the community as your police department would be that's in the addition. So we just want to walk you through some of the visual nature of what we're proposing. We've gone programmatically and space organizationally through the building, and now we want to introduce you to what it can look like and the way it can interact with the community. And our biggest priority as architects is to help this to feel welcoming and inviting to the community as a civic building, and interface in a way that the public feels not only that they can and come and go and interact with it in a comfortable way, but that it also gives that presence of permanence to the community and has the aspects of civic architecture that lend itself to something to take pride in. And so this first perspective shows you, as you come down that new access way from I-71 and Veterans Memorial Parkway, what the building looks like as you come up to it. And obviously, landscape and signage and things like that are components of architecture. They are layers that build up to what the building is. But then as you use those elements to introduce the architecture, we also are wanting to introduce things of transparency, glass and things like that to give that feeling of invitation and also give visual control. So behind these windows that you see in this rendering are your chief's office and one of his majors, and they have the first eyes on people as they're coming into the property. And that's a visual control that can be very beneficial. just in general terms. You can also see off to the right access to the automobile evidence or Sally port that you drive through, and that gated access into the impound yard where that police car is shown. And so that access component happens on this west end of the site as well. Then as you start to come around to the north of the building, this is obviously taken up in the air, and you're not going to stand here and look at it in this way, but it helps you to see how this building in its depth reaches back to where the existing building is versus this more public side of the building, and how it interacts with where you would enter into the site. And so this next rendering that you saw there on the cover of your sheet or your packet, and also here again, this is our public entry. And so again, a little bit more glass to introduce that welcoming feel and give that transparency to where people feel they understand where they need to go, where the front door is, but also a generous area of landscape to where there is a component of arriving at the building before you're actually entering it. One other thing that, and I should have said at the beginning, just a quick summary, that we are currently at the end of our what we call schematic design phase, and we have 2 more very intensive phases of architecture to get into, to where this gets developed to a much more detailed level. Some of the things that we have verbally talked about with the county up to this point that are yet to find their way into the building is the aspect of vehicular protection of the building. And so one of the things that we've talked about and proposed to do is have light bollards that can stop a vehicle as a part of this entry as well. We've also used some of our site walls and landscape elements to do exactly that, to prevent the potential that someone might drive a vehicle into the building. And then as we come around to the northeast side of the building, this gets into the more private interaction with the building, or more private aspect of the building. And so you can see there are, on the exterior side of things, our patrol car storage, which is gated and accessed both from Cross Keys Boulevard access there to on the left side of the page, and then at the bottom of the page what would be access from I-71. And as we've talked with your police department, that access out to Veterans Memorial is quite exciting and advantageous to them, so that they can respond quickly in that direction. If they had to head out Cross Keys Boulevard every time they responded to a call, they could have a big circumvention in order to get to a location that would be easily accessed going out the west side of the site. So it becomes a big advantage for them in responding to things as well. And then as we swing around to your existing building, you can kind of see it there in the last slide, but this comes around right to the face of it. And what we've done here is recognize that the building as it currently stands has value, but we want it to be a part of and feel like it's a part of the architecture of the addition as well. And so we're introducing simply some new materials to the exterior of it. There is indication that some materials of the outside need some TLC anyway. And so as a part of coming in and doing the addition, we'll come in and introduce some new materials to the exterior. So if you look at this view of the building and you look at the current building, you'll see you'll be able to pick out everything that's there as a part of that current building. We're not changing the architecture so much as we're introducing some materials and a little bit of landscape to soften this up. And one other aspect to this is this really becomes a front door for that training facility. And so as other departments and officers interact and come to the training aspect of the building, they'll come up Cross Keys Boulevard, park here, and come straight into the building here. And then lastly, we're going to walk you through just a couple of the interior spaces. As I mentioned, we are at the end of this schematic design phase, and we're going to dive into a lot more detail like this. But just to give an intention or a flavor of where we would be heading with the interiors of the building, we picked a few spaces and developed them to the level that we would convey what does this building feel like as you come in. So as you come in to that public lobby, obviously you see a secure space where you can interact with the clerical staff there, and a generous enough area that if somebody needs to wait for an officer or something like that, they have a restroom and a place to sit. And again, the intention of using daylight to enhance these spaces. This is the largest conference room in the building, where you would have your larger meetings and gatherings together, and introducing daylight to enhance that space, and then just accommodating needs of small things like the electronics that you'd see there for presentations or digital meetings and interaction, and then also just some storage off to the side for coffee, things like that. So the other meeting rooms are smaller in size and don't necessarily have any of the cabinetry and that kind of thing, but this is the larger one that has some of those features. And then lastly, this is getting into that patrol room where a lot of interaction with the police department chief and things like that are going to take place as they receive assignments and go out. So we went through and developed these interior spaces just to show you how the exterior architecture starts to interact with those interior spaces as we come through. So this is a summary of where we're at to date. Obviously, as we move forward, we will take into account the feedback that we receive from all of you and continue to receive from the county. And as we refine this and take it to the next levels and get ready for construction. We wanted to walk you through where we're at. And then a big aspect to this is where we are at with our projections on cost. And so with that, I'm going to turn the time back over to Keith, and he's going to walk us through a few things with regard to our current cost projections and the process we've gone through to get to where we're at with those projections.
Excuse me. Well, I'd like to begin by, I think, sharing some of the obvious things that you guys already know with you, and that's over the last several years, as a nation, we've experienced unprecedented increases in cost in construction. And just to highlight what that means with respect to this facility, some construction sectors since 2020 have increased between 25 and 40%. Heavy construction has been in the range of 100% and more. Those facilities, buildings that are intense with steel and concrete and copper materials fall in that category. But the average increase across all sectors has been 56.7% from 2020 to present. The probable cost to construct a police department building in 2025. The probable cost range is between $595 and $685 per square foot. The average cost is $638, and the value that we're using in our budget analysis is $650 per square foot. Now, this data has been obtained through published resources, one being from the International Association of Chiefs of Police, their data, RS Means Company, and Turner Construction Cost Index data, and from some of our recent bidding. So where's the key button here? Hit the down here. Okay. Now, for your project, we've broken the probable cost down into several areas, which when I go through this, I think you can understand where the dollars are and why we have specifically highlighted some things. The first area that I want to share with you is in the cost components associated with site development. The first line of site development is the general site development cost of $342,000. And the next line item is $1,275,000, and that's for soil remediation, undercut, and bringing in soils to correct deficient materials. We obtained the information on these soils from our soils engineer, from the data that we got from them. And I put that number off to the side under a category of optional or unusual costs, because it's kind of unusual to have that much expense for soil remediation. But as I mentioned to you a while ago, I want to be as transparent with you as I know how to be concerning these costs, so that you'll understand everything that we understand to the ability for us to present it to you today, knowing where we are in the job. Storm drainage, that's a 275, that's a pretty standard number. Earthwork, 624, site utilities, 218. New paving, 542, and paving of the, overlay paving of the existing parking area, 78,000. The road or drive extension, 350 for the extension, 386 for soil remediation on that. So you'll see several numbers in here that I've highlighted in a pinkish color. Now, these are some numbers that, or these are some work areas that, should you have the means within your own equipment and manpower resources to do some or part of this work, you could consider doing that. The drive extension of 736,000 total, I put that in an unusual category because you usually don't build that much of a driveway into a project. And $78,000 as a paving overlay, that's simply an optional price. So the new construction, which is the addition, it's 23,188 square feet. The structural component cost is $1.7 million. The architectural component cost is $7.2 million. And the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and sprinkler systems is $4.1 million. So the addition total is $13.1. And then you've got $2 million associated with the site work above, which would bring the value of all of the new construction to around $15 million. On the existing building, there's 36,000 square feet of existing area, and we're proposing renovating 17,300 square feet of the existing building. The structural needs there are 358,000, the architectural 2.1 million, and that comprises the facelift that we've shown you is a $2.1 million value. We have a value to redo the roof, 537, and the MEP, which is all the mechanical electrical systems being updated by being replaced, and replacing the firing range mechanical equipment for $600,000. Now, these three items I've highlighted in green, which are things that you would not have to do, you could view these as optional if you wanted to do them now, or you could look at them as deferred maintenance costs. So just want you to know that I'm showing you the value of them. Whether you elect to do it now or to do it later, that would be your decision. Then moving down into summary of all of this, if you did everything that we showed above, then the total of all the hard costs is $20 million, broken down into the two components of $15 million for the addition and $5 million for the renovation. You have a land cost, and I don't know what that value was. I think I heard somebody say y'all gave a couple $1 million for the property tonight. And there'll be some survey and geotech engineering fees. They'll be minimal. I don't know what those are. You may have some permitting and legal fees as you go along the way, and I don't know what that value would be. The architectural fee, a project contingency of 10%, furniture and movable equipment, budget for that. So you have a soft cost total of $5 million. So summarizing the optional and unusual values again, I have those listed in the far right column. Site conditions, $1.2 million, drive extension, $736,000, existing paving overlay, $78,000, and whether you did anything with the firing range, mechanical equipment, $600,000. So going down to the bottom at the grand totals, the total project cost, probable cost at $25 million, and then breaking it down into what we believe would be a range to hit. You don't know exactly what it's going to cost, but I'm trying to show you about what a range would be. 24 to 27 million, including the $2 million optional in that. And if you elected to do some or all of the deferred maintenance or the owner-provided items that I highlighted, you could have an adjusted range between 17 and $20 million. So that's the summary of where we believe the project costs are. And I'm going to hand it back to Josh, let him share with you what's next.
Thanks, Keith. So, long before we became a part of this project, you all been working on it and assessing your needs, your department's needs, and that growth and that period of time led to the property that you currently have, and we're looking at the renovation in addition to. As we got involved and during this period that Keith had identified, the various dates and things that we'd done, we've gone through our conceptual planning and design of the project and our schematic design phase, and that's where we're at today. So you can see there in that orange portion of the schedule, we're at presenting to you, and where we go from here is what we call design development, which is heavily engaging with our engineers. So our structural engineers are going to start into their building design as to the structural elements, the foundations and steel and everything associated with the building. We're going to engage our civil engineers as it relates to the site design and the individual components as a part of that. And then our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers for the systems and all of those components. And as those trains start going down the track, we're running the architecture down a separate track at the same time, and the goal is that we all arrive at the train station at the same time. But there's a lot of give and take between us and our engineers during that time. And then it's kind of a seamless transition, but we transition into what we call construction documents, which is putting all of those drawings and specifications together that are necessary to have a thorough construction process. So our construction document phase is where we do most of our heavy lifting to make sure that your project as you go through construction is not fraught with headaches, and that your building performs the way that's intended to. Then as we arrive in our projections, again, schedules, especially design schedules, have an owner component to it. There may be some hurry-ups and some slowdowns as it relates to approvals that are needed, but we project that we are approximately going to be ready to go out to bid in July or August, thereabouts. And so we're anticipating that bid period to come in the latter part of summer, and then we would enter into construction as long as everything's in line and proceeds. And that would be anywhere close to a 16 to 18 month construction period. We will confirm a lot of those things as we go through the detailed aspect of the project, but this just gives you a snapshot of where we're at right now, and we wanted to convey to you, we are appreciative for the opportunity to work with your county, and have appreciated those we've worked with, but convey to you where we're at right now and what comes next. And so with that, many of you may have questions. I don't want to step on any procedures, so you let me know, Judge, how best we go
All
through.
right. I'd like to thank you for this comprehensive and clearly stated, I think easy to follow presentation. We'll have magistrates now have a chance. So Bob Dye, did you have a question?
I'd like to take a break,
Oh, you want to take a break? Okay.
or I could just take a break,
Pardon?
or I could just take a break.
Well,
Up to you.
all right. Well, all right. I guess we want all the magistrates to hear all the answers to all the questions. So let's take a break until the clock says 7:25. All right? Would that be all right with everyone? Is that clock wrong? Okay, it should say 8:25. No one's pushed the clock ahead. So, all right. Let's take a 10-minute break here. May I have a motion to come back into session, please?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, back in session. Now we'll entertain questions for the architects from the magistrates. Magistrate Logson.
All right, I've got a long list. So I'm concerned about the time frame. You're saying you keep talking about the court members. Who were you referring to on the court members? Because we were never brought up. This was never brought to us. Yeah, in December when you
County representation,
right.
county judge was there, and Joe was there, and Stan was there during our meetings, and police chief and some of his associates met with us.
But not any of the county sitting here, except for the judge, right?
I didn't intend to imply that.
All right.
No,
so-
no, Magistrate Logson, the fiscal court passed a resolution to hire JKS Architects to design a police station. At that point, that became the administration's responsibility to get this design. We've delivered it tonight. There was never any intention to have any magistrate sitting down trying to get into anything about this before tonight.
I understand. Can I finish?
And I think
my
you're
question?
aware of that before the meeting began.
No.
Judge, may I make-
Yes, you were.
The
Let's
question
go ahead.
was,
Judge Vogel, may I make a suggestion, please? Instead of us going back and forth tonight as individual magistrates with the architect, since we just got this information, can we take a week or 2 weeks to digest all of this and then reconvene with either him here virtually or him in here in person, and then ask our questions so that we're not asking 30 questions a person here? Let's take it home,
so he's
digest
going to
it.
come back and we're going to ask the 30 questions again?
Well,
Instead of you asking your list of questions, me asking my list of questions tonight, let's digest the information we got tonight. We just got it. Let's digest it for a couple of weeks.
I have
Get our
questions.
questions together, and then come back and talk to them.
I have some questions first.
I think that's a good suggestion, but let's see if it does, if it gets to be too intense. We'll see. We may be able to answer some cursory things here tonight, but I think they're here now, so we plan to have some question and answer.
So is it cheaper to go up or out?
Usually going out is less expensive.
Less expensive than going up? Because the foundation's already there.
Especially in a facility that's 20, 30,000 square feet. Going up, you have duplication of several things. You have elevator, you have at least 2 stairs. Just as a general rule, if you have the landscape, the land to do it on single level, it's generally less money.
So, but there's a second floor to this building, right?
There's an existing mezzanine in the existing building, but
Okay.
there's no second floor in the addition.
I guess my question is, I don't know how this got to this point. When we were going to redo this building, we agreed to do the inside of the building that was currently there. It wasn't until probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, I didn't even knew we were going to add on to the building and keep adding on and doing all this stuff. So I'm sorry, this is a total, except for knowing that we were going to do it maybe 3 weeks ago, I did not know this. The judge keeps saying that we knew about this. That's not what we knew about. We knew we were going to retrofit the building that was there. That's what I signed on for. But you did a wonderful job on this. Looks great. But, my concern is I'd rather go up than out, because I still think when you build a 2-story house, it's cheaper to go up than it is out. So I don't, and I guess my next question is, if we took the building of, let me get your figures, of it's up to $15 million for the new section, correct?
Yes.
What if we took it and built that somewhere else? Would that cost be the same if you put it somewhere else?
It's going to cost you about the same per square foot, irregardless of what site you built on. Part of the question is what are we using in conjunction with the existing, which we may have to duplicate again on another site.
Well, the
For example-
building's already a shooting range, so it could be left as a shooting range.
But we're using some components in the existing building for evidence storage and for toilet and locker facilities. So there's some area in the existing building that we have renovated value assigned to it that augment the use of the police department in the new component.
Well, I mean, this is a great concept, and I thank you for doing it, but I don't guess I can say what I need to say today because I need to keep it directly to you, so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Yes, just a couple of questions. You talked about I see on here on the one of the drawings was a secondary dispatch. Will that entail having to build an antenna for, in order to be able to use that for secondary dispatch, or is that, explain that a little bit more about what your concept is on a secondary dispatch?
The details of the equipment, we haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Okay.
We just have a placeholder conceptually for that. Beyond that, I don't have the information to share with you tonight.
Okay. What about, I noticed beautiful building, the design or whatever, all of that glass. Is there any concern with that much glass and with police officers in the building and staff and whatever, if somebody wanted to come down and, shoot the building up or whatever, is that problematic, or can that, I assume that's not, would not be bulletproof glass or anything like that because of the expense, but I was just wondering if that is a concern with that much exposed glass.
Sure, I can speak to that. In all reality, it's actually enhances the safety of that building because you can see what's going on. There's going to be individuals, officers coming and going on the outside of the building and have just as much exposure as they would coming and going inside the building. Okay. And being able to see the event of a organized attack or something like that would be actually to the benefit of being able to see that. And in large part, this is many of those spaces that receive that glass are administrative office type areas that you would see in any building. And I know I'm a little biased as an architect, but I believe it enhances those spaces, makes them more enjoyable to be in when you can have that daylight. So that's part of the reason for it.
Okay. One more question. Are these documents that you presented tonight available in electronic form?
We can share those with you as much as we're allowed to. We're happy to share with you anything that we provide tonight. Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Magistrate Woosley.
Mr. Vernon, when you looked at this building, did you consider a pitched roof instead of a flat roof? The pluses of a pitched roof minus just the cost of fixing the flat roof?
We did, and there were some aspects to this building that were fairly unique as far as how the need interacted with the site. One of those is definitely the sally port and that needing to be able to pull through the building. And when you get into those pitched roofs that have ins and outs, courtyard type spaces that interact with the building, they start to become a lot more cumbersome in architecture than beneficial. The roof design, as we've presented it, has a couple of strategies behind it. Number one, we are tying into a pre-engineered metal building system, and we're trying to unify so that you can come and go from the existing to the new in a seamless way. And in order to tie those buildings together without it just being an extension of that pre-engineered metal building, those tie-ins get pretty complex as it is to keep weather and water out of the building. And for the reasons mentioned with the interaction with the public and the interaction with the sally port and things like that, and where the firing range is, there were some components that were going to get into pretty complex roofs. And so that's the main reason that we opted to go toward a low slope membrane roof with internal drain system. If if I can get at what I typically answer this question or this type of question is to get at a concern for leaks or a concern for performance. Membrane roofs have gotten to where the warranties and operation match or exceed those of metal roofs, and it's much easier to seal up a membrane roof than it is to seal up a metal roof or a pitched roof when it does leak, which they do as well. And so there's a lot of benefits to it, but I would say to answer your question, it's a sum of a lot of parts. It's an assessment of how do we tie into this building, how do we address the components of the needs that are adding onto it and interacting with the site, and then how do we give you a building that's protecting its integrity and giving longevity to it. And our recommendation on that was to go the direction of a membrane roof. And so just one more thing I'll say on that is as a part of this, we are also proposing to re-roof your existing metal roof so that too is a non-leak. Right now, some of our most concerning roof locations where we really need to get into the details to protect the building are actually on the existing building more so than the addition. Where that rifle range is, that's actually already a low slope roof, and the way it ties into the existing metal building is one where we want to make sure and protect the building from any leaks.
Okay. Were either of you there when they did the inspection of the current building for the mechanics of the new building, or the current building?
That was just recently. That was our mechanical engineer that came down and did an inspection. If that's the one you're referring to, there may have been another one that.
What's the condition of the current building? I know you've got some price in here, but is there anything that stuck out that of the current building right now as it sits that we're going to need to fix?
Right, Keith, you talked to Backus. Do you want to?
And that's the reason why we highlighted those numbers in green, is because it's presently working, okay? It's presently working. You know, some will say, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So we're saying that to you. But given the age of some of the stuff, there's going to be a day in not the too distant future that it will break. So I'm just making you aware that it can work as is, but somewhere along the way, there's going to be costs associated with replacements. So you could consider those numbers as deferred maintenance items.
Specifically, I'm looking at the line item that you have in here that could be $600,000 to replace the firing range mechanical. Are you telling us there's an issue there now, or are you just saying that if it does fail, this is what it's going to cost?
That's what I'm saying. If it were to fail and you needed to replace it, that's the value to replace it. Currently, it's our understanding that it's functional.
Okay. I'm going to have lots more questions. Who should I direct those to by email?
Either of us will both.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have, Judge.
And then we'll give everybody a chance to digest it. We can bring them back later. I mean, you know, we don't, but I think it's a little frustrating to have people not be able to ask their questions, at least initial questions tonight. Okay, Magistrate Tice.
Couple of questions. I think he just got one answered for me.
Can you move your microphone?
Apologize, excuse me.
You're
I think
good.
he answered one of the questions for me, and that's if we have to do work on the rifle range, that's all by itself. But of the square footage that's being renovated and the parts that new construction, in a general, can you break those two up in two pieces, in size and also in the price? Or is that too hard to ask right now?
I think I know your question. So I'm going to give you an answer. If I'm not answering the right question,
We'll try it again.
You ask me again. There's like 23,000 square feet of addition.
New
and
construction, okay.
New construction, and the value of it, I'm using round numbers off the top of my head, it was about $15 million.
That's fine.
And there's 17,000 square feet of the 38,000 square feet of the existing that we're renovating, 17 of the 38,000, and that's 5 million something number.
So just taking those two numbers off of there, you're at about 23 and 17, which is about 40,000 square foot. And we're somewhere around in 20,000 to do all the work. Now, did we miss a little part of it? Because you had said earlier, I think that you're going to use the 635 Am I right? Am I right on that number?
650 on the new construction.
Yeah.
And the value in the renovation number, can we back up and get that?
There was a
slide?
little range there.
There, back up, one up. There it is, right there at the very top. 647.97
Wait a second.
for the addition per square foot, 294.71 for the renovated area. And those numbers are 23,000 and something for the addition and 17,000 and something for the renovated area. That occurs, I think, up one page.
And the one
Right
thing
there.
that might be a little confusing with that is the existing building is actually 35,000 square feet, but we're only renovating 17,000 square feet
The
of it.
rest of it, we're using it as is.
Got it. But those figures are still at the 20 million, but they're different a little bit than what we were talking about, the total amount of square footage that you're going to be working on. And I'm discounting the rifle range, not counting that area,
Yeah, we're
just in my mind.
using we're not doing any work to the pistol ranges or the rifle ranges,
Right.
using them as is.
Yes, I got that. The one other, and I guess, Judge, I guess you need me to ask this question, and I haven't heard this before, is all of a sudden we're talking about antennas and radio systems. Is there an area that's reserved for that on this plan?
Yes.
And where was that be, please? Got my helper here. He carries me through. Oh, it's not, wait a second. I meant parking lot is where I meant, because we weren't going to do anything on that right now. Is that true? Where are they going to put the antenna? It's got to go up in the air, doesn't it?
You know, I
Excuse me?
haven't shown an antenna, and I haven't shown anything with equipments related to a secondary dispatch. We have an area set aside for that function.
Where is that, sir?
Okay.
That's what the question I'm trying, outside? No. It's in the building?
It's in the building.
The dispatch would be inside.
Okay.
The antenna would come right outside the window.
Okay. I got it. I'm the oldest one on this court, and it's showing, but I'm doing the best I can. Okay,
Square?
got it. Thank you. Got me covered on that.
Manager Towns.
Just a couple of questions.
I didn't know this was.
First one is, if I'm understanding this right, we've got about 1,275,000 of unknown soil issues. So if we were to take and build this building that we're talking about, potentially that $1.2 million could go away.
Yes.
And can you, in magistrate terms, which that's pretty far down the spectrum here, explain to us what this soil issue is that you're talking about? Because this is the first I've heard of this.
Okay. There's soil material on the site, just by its present nature, is unsuitably strong to build a building upon. So we're going to have to remove that to, I'm going to use a number just as an illustration.
That's fine.
You have to cut 4 feet of it out.
Okay.
Because it's bad.
4 feet deep,
Yeah, that's an illustration number, that's not an actual
I
number.
understand.
And then you'll have to bring in suitable soil that's capable of being placed and compacted so that that material will be strong enough to build upon.
So in my other life, I know that Mother Nature takes care of soil compaction in 7 years. We're going to be able to create a pad essentially by doing that we're not going to have issues with the building cracking or settling or anything like that?
That's correct.
Okay. I didn't see it in the plan, I didn't see it on the drawing, but is there a generator for the facility?
There will be, it's be required by code because you're an essential facility.
And then that number for the generator is in one of
Yes.
these big numbers?
Yes,
And that will power the whole
yes.
facility?
100%.
Okay. When we look at the building, and I'm a function person, not such much a pretty person. as far as, I look at this, it's nice looking, but is there a way we can, if we were to build this building, are we using, I can't use that term because are we using high end, are we using marble, or are we using luxury vinyl? You know, I mean, there's some,
All right, yeah. Let's do it on a scale of 1 to 10.
okay, I'm good with that.
Okay. One is the cheapest thing you can buy. 10 is the most opulent you could buy. We're probably around a 6.5.
Okay. And that's for all the finishes inside and out, or just the finishes on the outside?
That's through, I mean,
That's
we haven't,
prob- that's probably
we're
throughout.
we're diving into the interiors as we move forward. And so a lot of those decisions are yet to be made, but the intent would be the
I understand.
same.
I'm not going to hold you to it. I'm just trying to, what the vision is that you've been given, because we don't know this information.
Absolutely. The intent is, as a civic facility and what it means to the community, that it reaches that level of importance and permanence through that quality level that's displayed, but and it carries through to the interior, same as the outside, so that the whole thing feels appropriate for what it is.
Okay. When I look at the numbers, with the firing range piece, that $600,000, I think you answered the question, but I was looking for clarification. That's for the HVAC for the pistol range and the rifle range?
Three ranges.
Okay. There's no, I don't see money in here to do anything to the ranges themselves, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so as far as the targets and that kind of stuff, okay, that's not in there. I guess when we first started this project, and I'm gonna have to make some assumptions, I don't have the answers, but the HVAC that's in the current building, when we talk about the changes that need to be made to that part of the reason that we're going to the addition is because why? I mean, what makes it so that we have to have this addition, that we can't use more of the, I'll call it usable space in the building?
That's an excellent question. There's really two components of that. The first component is that the space that you need is a total.
Is it what, I'm sorry?
The space that you would need for this facility as a total
Okay, total.
would not fit in the existing building. So it fundamentally necessitated some addition, okay? And the existing building is, it was constructed 30 some odd years ago, 40 years ago, thank you.
At least.
And it was not built under the provisions of an essential facility, meaning that it was never intended to have that extra strength that an essential facility is required to have by code. So it made sense to us to put the essential components in the addition and non-essential components in the existing building, so you get the best use and value from the existing building. The existing building now is a little bit larger than what you need for the pieces that are going in there, but it gives you some room to expand those similar types of components in the future.
But if we look at the building that we have today, I guess, and if any building that's renovated has to go up to the new code?
Yes,
Okay. And this building is a fully sprinkled building,
yes,
including the old building?
yes.
It currently is, yes.
I know the current building. It was a roller skating rink
Right.
a few years ago, before it was a range. Okay. That's all I have for right now.
Magistrate Likens.
Thank you, Judge. I want to jump on, I'm putting my engineering hat on for a while. Does the soil undercutting is probably, I'm like you, is probably not going to be necessary. There's ways you can use cement stabilization. There's a thicker stone subgrade. There's thicker slabs. This is a one-story building. It's not like we're building a 10-story building on piling. But, so I think that cost will probably come off. The cost of this project has gone from started off about $3 million, now it's $23 million. It reminds me of the two Polacks that go to the country and buy eggs for a penny each, bring them back to the city and sell them at 12 cents a dozen. But at the end of the day, one of them looks at the other one and says, I know what we need is a bigger truck. Anyway, I would like to talk about the central location of this building is a lot closer to our main population center of the county, meaning that there's a lot of subdivisions on the Jefferson County side, and this is closer to them, so I think it makes perfect sense to move in that direction. I would like to ask about windows. A lot of the officers have asked me, they like to have a window. Everybody likes a window. So I'd like some thought put into putting windows in the chief's office, into the sergeant's offices, if possible. And the last thing I'm going to show you is why I don't like architects. But can you put up page 7 for me, please? This is what architects do. They take things and they make angles and they skew them. I don't know why in the world we don't come straight out and fill in this little area. Now we've got a square building. This goes crooked up through here. Why don't we bring this out to here? Bring a straighter building out, bring the parking lot out here, put a little island, you got more parking. But when you start making angles and circles, that's where us engineers go crazy because we have to build it and design it. So, I'm done.
The question from Magistrate Likens is why are the angled areas not just straight areas on the parking lot and in the front of the building? Do you have a response for that? I think that question came up in our discussions with staff.
Yeah. I personally love engineers and love working with them because of things exactly like that. The back and forth, to me, enhances architecture, and occasionally I've gotten a few engineers to compliment me on some decisions too. But to answer your question though, a few subtle things. Part of it is when you do a piece of art, when you get into artwork, and you get this beautiful landscape, and you put a red flower in the corner, everybody's eye goes right to it, gets distracted by it, and it detracts from the overall composition. As we got into the early design of this, we were trying to accommodate a few of the flow through the site and flow through the building decisions to be made, and in a few cases, that subtle angle created some enhanced interaction with the spaces. It made it a little bit easier for the sally port access. It made it a little bit more inviting to the.
Also, where you got to go up and kind of keep around this flow. It just seems to me
Yeah. Well, I won't get into all the details of it, but to answer your question, it's our attempt as we put this design together to put a cohesive whole that as you interact with any bit of it and as you come and go, it's seen as and felt as an experience that's enriching and feels like something that the county can be proud of, for both from a visual standpoint as you stand back and look at it, or as you come and go inside the building and experience the spaces in it. And so
as a
you'll find some of those
contractor, I know it costs money to do things like that too. Those are hard to design and they're expensive when you vary.
Well,
from...
that's one I'd probably argue with you on, but that's okay.
Thank you.
Magistrate Hawkins.
I have 3 questions, kind of to relay on what Magistrate Tice was asking. There's 21,200 feet of existing that you're not intending to renovate. Is that how large the 3 rifle ranges are, or shooting ranges are? 21,200? Or are there other parts of the building besides the ranges that you're not planning on renovating?
There are other areas,
Okay.
is the short answer to your question. The ranges are included in that. There's some space to the, you see it on your screen, upper left-hand side, there's mechanical space up there. There's a large square in, midpoint to the left. That's, would be space reserved for an indoor tactical training unit, would be put in that area. So we're not doing anything to the area. There'd be accessories and equipment that would go in there later. But space-wise, we're not doing anything in there.
The current conference room and lobby, it looks like, maybe? Or if you're not sure, it's okay.
Is there any way to,
There's not really a way to zoom in on it.
yeah, there you go. This right here, we're not doing anything here, not doing anything here,
Okay.
not doing anything down through here, not doing anything here, in here, nothing here, minimal in here, nothing here.
Okay.
So,
There's some minor, the reason he said it's hard to exactly pinpoint that if you go use those restrooms right now, you're going to want to have a few upgrades. And so there's some minor things that we'll come back in and do, but
Okay.
it means more that walls are staying where they are. And if there's some drywall that needs to be patched and painted, then that will happen. But the space is staying to where it is.
and we would assume minor things like a paint job, just so that it looks fresh, is part of what I would consider doing nothing, because just putting paint on it is.
I think that first square box you looked at too was intended by the police to build a tactical training area in there. And this building is being used now and has the potential to be used by more law enforcement agencies are all reimbursing us for using the building. The tactical training area can be built in such a way that it is very desirable for other agencies to come and be able to basically pay us to have an opportunity to use these facilities. So there's I don't want to use the word merchandising with police department, but there is an opportunity here to generate a cash flow from this part of the building.
You said in December 2024, you were requested to reduce the project component that you're doing by 20%. What did you take out?
There were several spaces that were seen as possibilities to reduce the scope down to and make sure that there wasn't anything that was excessive above the needs and the foreseen growth. And so what was identified were a lot of it's kind of almost like a surgeon going in. There were several restrooms that were taken out. There were several offices that were taken out. There was another meeting space that was taken out. General square footage was reduced in some areas, and so in fact, as we sat in the meeting and determined that we needed to trim the building and determined what that goal was, the first approach was to identify spaces that could be removed, and then as designers, we've recommended, and the approach that we took was, let's identify a target, and then we'll come back with a new plan. Rather than trying to cut this out and smoosh everything else together, we said, let's identify a target. So we identified the target as 20%. We cut that square footage out and came back with a new plan that showed that reduction. And so it was simply identified spaces that you may add on in 20 years. They are things that you could use and foreseen growth, but we're seen as, for the current building, the current project, we could do without. And there was a lot of involvement from the police department in that, saying, we can do without this right now. We can do without this right now, those types of things.
And another thing that we had some more we had some more conferencing space in there, so we doubled some departments' use of common conference spaces was one thing that we did to eliminate some area.
So was the size of the final product reduced?
Yes,
Okay.
Of the addition, yes.
yes.
Okay. And then my last question is, while indicated that these would be people who would essentially be handcuffed to the table, is it sort of standard operating procedure in building or renovating something like this to put your most intense, hard interview rooms right next to the women's locker room where a female officer potentially would not have her weapon on her person?
So,
I-
May I answer?
I'll let you answer.
okay.
That may be a question best answered by the chief. you
Well,
know.
yeah, and there, so to Keith's point, there's been a lot of involvement with the department as we've organized these spaces so that they feel comfortable with the way things are arranged. I guess my response would be that the female officers are just as trained as the male officers. And
That's why I
those-
said she probably wouldn't have her weapon on her.
Right. Well, this is a part of the building. You can see how deep it in and separated it is from the public areas of the building.
Yeah.
There's a couple of reasons those interview rooms are located where they are, and that's the visual control from multiple officers that would be passing through that area that would always be able to keep an eye on who's in there. I don't think you're ever going to have somebody in that room that there's not an officer aware that they are in there. But with the adjacency to the women's locker rooms, that would be something that we definitely want the input from the police the department on, as far as whether they see a concern for that. But my initial thought on it would be that the individuals in that room would be just as trained as any other officer in that building.
Or any locker room, then in that case, 59,000 square feet, and it shares a wall. It seems like the most intense maybe could be in a, not necessarily by either gender's
Oh,
locker
you
room.
mean actually going through that wall, like somebody
Oh,
kicking
not
through the wall or
necessarily.
something?
No, but it shares a wall, but then this door and this door to the rooms
Yeah.
are also on the same wall as the females coming in and out of the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, something that we can definitely visit with the department about and see if they have any concerns and make adjustments. But the plan as we've presented it tonight has been combed over and reviewed many times by the department, and we've made many tweaks based on their recommendation on where spots should be located. So that, as far as I can answer, that's probably about it. But the police department may want to take another look at it on it. So appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Thanks.
And should die.
Keith, this is for you. You were talking about the orange area up there. And you said, we're not gonna do something here, 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 and here, and here. But on this, it's up.
I should die. We can't hear you down here.
You said
I
on the
turned off
orange,
his microphone. You're welcome.
I'll get, on these orange areas, you said we weren't gonna do something here, 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 and here. Well, on this page here, that's the same diagram, and it's got all these things in here: rifle range, tactical training. You mentioned tactical training, classroom, reception, training officer, range storage, range ammo, firearms and repair, firearm range 1 and 2. Now, if I heard you right, you said you're not doing anything to the existing building, right?
No, I said we're not doing anything to these areas in the existing building.
Then okay, I'll just use one spot.
Okay.
The tactical tactical training spot right here.
Yeah, right here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're not renovating that space as a whole. That space would be used for the tactical training device. The extent of renovation there would be maybe a paint job. So we're not building new walls. We're not putting any different systems in there. It's intended to be used for the TAC house in the context that it's presently in.
So, in other words, what you would do here would be a minimal cost,
Yes.
correct? All right. I'm sorry, I forgot your name first.
Josh Vernon.
Gosh. I've heard you make a couple of comments like what the community became proud of, and you talked about the inside here and inside there. Have you ever been to a police station?
Been in many of them and designed several of them.
Yeah. And you find that in police stations, there's a lot of interaction of going inside the building with the general public? I don't mean someone that may have other business at the police station.
Yeah, there is enough interaction between the administrative portions of police departments and the public that there needs to be an interface, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
there is.
you didn't answer my question.
Well, maybe I misunderstood your question.
There's a lot of reason, as Keith said, you're going to go to a 6.5 on your 1 to 10 scale of
Right.
your ambiance. So you're saying that we need to spend a lot of money on pretty things?
No, I don't think you need to spend a lot of money on pretty things. I think the nature of a police station is it belongs to the community that it resides in, and it reflects that community.
I understand that.
Let me speak to that, Bob, if you don't mind, because
Sure.
I think I know what you're asking.
We communicate better anyway.
There are a lot of utilitarian spaces in this building that are not in the 6.5 category, as you would measure it with respect to fit, finish, and look. They would be more or less basic, 3.5, 4, common space. But the systems that we would put in this building, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, so forth, are of a higher order. Those that are more durable, longer lasting. Geothermal systems, for example, to put quality backbone into the building, which that in my mind raises the whole building to a higher level, which measuring it from a scale of 1 to 10 would be a 6, 6.5 building. It's not in fit and finish, but it's in durability and quality in the bones.
So we're not driving, as Magistrate Hounds says, we're not driving the cost up with marble floors.
Absolutely not. That's never intended, nor did I intend to infer that.
No, you didn't infer that. I kept saying the
Right.
pride of the community and all that. You know, I don't remember. And of course, I've never asked the question recently. Do we do a lot of field trips at the jail? I mean, the jails. You know, I remember the story we had about the stuff on the floor. I get some more of that vinyl stuff you put on the floor. I like that. But next question is, you all mentioned early on and I might have this wrong, okay? A building space program,
Yes.
okay? I'm going to send you all quite a few questions, and some may be redundant, so bear with me. Can I get a copy of that program, the results of that program? Because you made a comment that I think, who wanted to see a copy of the stuff sent to them? Was that you?
We have asked for electronic versions.
Okay,
yes.
but you made a comment and said, well, as far as what we can show you, is there something that you've been told that you, for whatever reason, you can't show us?
No, there's nothing we've been told we can't show you. I simply know that my interactions have been with Judge Vogel, and if he told me not to send something to you, I'd need to listen to him.
Judge, you're not going to interfere with sending stuff to us, are you?
No, I think everybody should have an electronic copy of it.
Okay, all right.
So, you give us one and we'll distribute it to
Right.
everybody. It's
Ev-
not,
ev-
we're not.
Everything-
Could you just send that directly to us?
That I don't have any problem with it. Everything that we have, we've shown to those that we've worked with up to this point, and we don't have any concerns in sharing that for
I didn't
the
think
public eye or whoever wants to see.
You might have misspoke. I don't see anywhere in here, and this is since I'm on the ODA board and of the office park, and we talk a lot about flex space. Is there anything in this multiple pages that you've got everything identified? Well, this is this, and this is that. Isn't there any flex space in here that it could be a conference room one day and it could be something else the next day, and still use the same room and the same chairs, same table?
So the
You got one conference room there that it's got, I think, 12 chairs in it. You're going to use that every day?
the reality of the use of a building is when needs change, storage rooms get reallocated, or an office space gets used for storage, or a meeting room gets adopted by somebody who needs an office. And so to the extent that we can foresee that future need adjusting, we have accommodated. Everything has a name on it because we are addressing current needs and some needs that are in the foreseeable future. And so as you go through and you see 6 sergeant offices, the current need may have been only 5, or 6 detective offices, the current need may have only been 5. So there is accommodating some current growth, and some of that came from the chief letting us know that this is our current staff, this is the current number of heads that we have, but this is already, we need to hire this many more. And so as we put our program together, it was based on current individuals, accommodating space for each of them, and having spaces for the immediate growth needs. And that's probably the biggest change that we made when we made a 20% reduction, was taking out some of those additional spaces that were for growth in the future.
Well, I wasn't privileged to that information, so I'm not saying you haven't done it. I'm just saying, is there something to be done? And what employment number were you firing at? Was there any kind of number given you? Like,
I have to look back at our program. Off the top of my head, I don't know if you remember.
It's in the program. I don't know the number off the top.
okay. And I guess my last question is, I don't know if you know this or not, but I think almost all of our officers, except maybe 1 or 2 or 3, I'm not that sure. I'm not versed on the policy of the police department verbatim, but they all have take-home cars. And I see a lot of interaction at this building. They don't, and I could be wrong, but I don't think they drive in to the police station and punch a clock. I think they call on and call off on their car radio, okay? So is it foreseeable that some of these offices, that these officers, and I'm going to speak specifically of detective sergeants and sergeants and such, may not even come into those offices? They couldn't be shared or flex space?
No, I think that's a great question. That secure parking area does house patrol cars, and we actually drove by the.
No, I don't think those 12 cars are patrol cars.
So yeah,
So
sorry.
there might be pool cars.
Right. So all I was going to say is that in that secure parking area, your staff that needs to be in the secure area would be using that parking area as well. In the rendering, it shows all police cars, but that would be the staff that would remain in the building would park in that area as well. The area off to the north, and I apologize, there's no north arrow. That was my fault not to have it on there. But the north side there where we show the parking, that's intended as a public, no gated access interaction with the site, whereas a lot of employees would be in that gated area. But there would be patrol cars there as well. I think just as we passed by the police stations, we came into town, we saw 8 to 10 police cars there at the
Some of those could have
stations.
been pool cars.
Pool cars.
Yeah, pool cars, yeah.
Because, unfortunately, even when you buy the cars that we buy, and I feel, I was here when we first started doing the car buying the way we do it now. It's changed somewhat, but I want the officers in the best car that we can afford.
Yeah.
Okay? And I want it to be the kind of car that they can get comfortable in. If you're in that seat 8 hours a day, it's got to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Now, I can't match it up with a lazy boy office chair in an office. But the officers know, and there's a lot of them back there. The only way you're going to find anybody is out there on the street. They don't walk in and get green stamps. Right. So, I'm a little concerned about a lot of office space there that in reality will probably never be used to any great length. Now, I keep hearing this great increase in population. I want to tell you what, I'll never see it in my lifetime. There's a few other ones up here that ain't going to see it in their lifetime, and a few out there. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the police are going to become more mobile with the technology going. I just think that's the way it's going to go. But, it's a nice plan. I got to give you all credit. And Keith, this is the last question. This was for you. When you came up with putting the mechanicals in the metal roof on the jail, I thought that was the smartest thing I think I'd ever seen to protect the mechanicals from the weather. So we're leaving the mechanicals out in the wet, and the snow, and the rain. Where are you hiding them?
We're going to do the same thing here. We intend to do the same thing here. We just haven't developed that component yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that adds to life. That adds years.
That's part of why I'm saying it's 6.5 building. We know budgetarily that we're going to move to that level of equipment, protection, and so forth within this budget. We're at a schematic design phase end. We're moving next into getting into the weeds on what the building is, which those types of things would emerge at that point in time. But
Okay.
it was our intention to do a mechanical systems mezzanine in this building, driven with geothermal system.
Yeah, smart way. You never did answer Magistrate Lyson's question about squaring up those corners. If that's something that's not gonna happen or not gonna be considered, or you just shine him down the road?
I mean, our job is to present what we recommend, and if we're told that that's not right, then we go back and we redesign.
Because you know it is a cost saver.
On the reason I said that I would argue on that one is I don't think we've done anything extreme enough to get into cost. I know that curvy buildings and extreme things can cost a lot of money. These are pretty minor moves.
See, I can't make that statement with people's tax money.
Oh, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't think we're spending more with those decisions.
You're not still think you're spending more making it angled than making it square?
I don't believe we are.
I'd have to see the math. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Okay, Magistrate Logson.
Mr. Sharp, this is to you. So I'm not concerned about what you put in this building because I know you're very capable of doing what you've done here, and it's a beautiful building. So, but my question is to the people at home. You think this building, as you have it right here, let's say between 20 and 25 million, correct?
Yeah.
So in reality, will it end up costing us 40 million at the end?
I don't think that's the case.
30 million? I mean, because no matter what, I've never seen on a new construction, building homes, what I've been doing for 38 years, when you give somebody a figure, they better come in at that figure, or usually the builder is going to eat that. But it seems like in commercial, there's not a set thing. It just overrun. So my question to you is, do you think we'll be 20% over that number? Do you think we'll be 10%? And you've done tons of projects, so I know you have some kind of idea what an overrun is going to be on this size building here.
Is the new line item gonna be tariff?
Let him answer.
It's not a line item, it could become a reality.
Yeah.
So, I don't have a crystal ball on that, but I want to answer your question, okay? I too grew up in the construction business. My dad was a contractor. I dug ditches when I was a kid. Matter of fact, I helped my son dig footings last week. So I know construction business personally from the hard end of it. And I know what it costs to build things. And there's one thing that I've been able to do as a practitioner is be pretty accurate in my projections of cost. And the only experience you have with me on that is with the county jail. And you can look at the record on that and see how we performed. The numbers that I've presented to you tonight is my best ability to project to you what I think this project's going to cost. If I thought it was going to cost $40 million tonight, I would tell you $40 million. So you said, well, what do you think my overrun's going to be? I've got a 10% contingency in the line item in the budget. And I think that we'll do the job and cover it within the contingency that's in the budget. And that's my honest opinion. I don't see it to be different.
And I'll take it as face value, because the only thing I can say is the building across the street almost doubled what it cost. Our animal control building was $3 or $4 million off budget. That's the only thing I have to go for. So that's what I'm worried about.
And
Is when we,
I understand exactly what you're saying, and you and I are on the same wavelength with that. We've experienced these same things, and as I see the cost trend change, it's my duty to advise you of it. And if I see cost trending changing before you go to bid, I'll tell you. But right now, I think we're solid with these numbers.
I'll just say about the courthouse. The courthouse has been going on since December of 2018. It was interrupted by the COVID pandemic. The supply chains were interrupted. All kinds of things happened there. The plan had to be redone about 3 times because of changes that were demanded by either people in the community or not wanting a 3-story building, or people in Frankfurt insisting that the 1838 building be maintained. Lots of things happened in there. The final group in Frankfurt that gave approval to the construction project because of COVID didn't meet for 9 months. That threw all kinds of things happened. So it's really, we've had cost overruns, but in that, it cost more than it was anticipated, but it had been built and finished a couple of years ago. If it hadn't been for things that came along that were out of our control. The animal building, we built that. Unfortunately, the architect died in the middle of the project. Other people had to pick up things that were left hanging out there by that individual. We're hoping none of that happens with this. These are good people, and I think our detention center, the success we've had there, and it's just, other than the locks, Bob Dye has been on me. We've had to replace the locks on some doors and about that. But other than those, that thing has been a home run, and it's a grand slam. And Keith designed it and made it work for us. So I'm confident in what he's done here. If majority of people want something else, okay. But as far as Bob, you and I won't be sitting here when this county has 100,000 people living in it, but it's going to happen. And there's going to be, when we built our police station, we had 18 officers. Now we got 46. Things are going to keep growing, and to say that nothing is going to change or property is going to get used less in the future than it does now. One thing about our building now, it's not a conducive building to bringing any outside groups into to even meet with police. It's a functional building that was built for the times, but the times have passed it by. And whether it's this or something else, we need to do something to not kick the can down the road, because it will come up, it'll keep coming up, and it'll be more expensive in the future. Magistrate Hounds.
Mr. Sharp, have you been given the green? Back on. Mr. Sharp, have you been given the green light to move to the design development phase?
Not necessarily, and we wouldn't move to the next phase until we know that everybody's comfortable with where we are and where we're going.
Thank you.
That's part of the process.
Right, and I want to address a comment that was made earlier about we bought this building, and it was bought with the idea of remodeling it into the police station with a firing range attached to it. Okay, but we bought it and then went out to see what was architecturally possible. We didn't bring a consultant in before we bought it, and we know that every one of us on here voted to buy it because we thought it was, we weren't going to buy it just for a firing range. Maybe you didn't. Did you not vote?
For it.
Okay, you didn't vote for it. We didn't buy it to be a firing range only. We passed on that idea when it came up. It wasn't until the idea surfaced that maybe this could be a headquarters for police that we actually went ahead and purchased the building with the idea of remodeling it. And the court gave the administration here permission to go ahead and get an architect and get the ball off the ground. But when we got it off the ground, the architect came in and said, this cannot be remodeled into what you want. And that's why we went forward with a design with a building and attached to it. There's been no effort to not include people, but we've put together what we thought we could present, and we've come tonight to present the work of the architect to this point. If the court, I've had other people throw out ideas with no price tags attached to it. They just, well, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. Okay, but what are your hard numbers? What are your facts about your idea to make a change? This is what we've come up with as the administration, based on what we thought we were instructed to do, but that's where we are. We're not going to go forward any further until there's a consensus in this group. Mary said, don't take a vote here tonight, and never came to take a vote. We had no plan to take any kind of vote tonight, but we're going to, this will be discussed in the halls, and, it'll be battered back and forth, and it'll come up with a public meeting on, if somebody wants to try to delay it or derail the project later, they'll have an opportunity at a future fiscal court meeting to do that. So, but you've made a good presentation tonight, and I believe everybody's much more informed than they were when they came earlier this evening, And not because you were not brought in, but you can't have 9 or 10 or 12 people design a plan. We've got to come up with a plan and then start to work either backward or forward from the plan point. Are there any more questions tonight for the architects?
I'd like to, if you'd allow me, just a closing comment or two. We've discussed a lot of things. And first of all, I want you to know that I'm here to serve you. Wherever you want us to go with the facility, this way, that way, up or down or sideways, we're here to help you. So please feel comfortable in knowing that that's what we intend to do, is to help you. I believe that the design that we brought to you tonight is a good solution for the police department, as we understand what you need. And we understand what you need from having spent endless hours working with the executive level and the police department to understand what the needs are. So I believe this is a good solution. If you were to try to construct the functionality and the surplus space that you have in this design completely new on a new site, it costs you another $18 million beyond what we're projecting. So I believe there's value here in the way that you're approaching this. When I first got here tonight, we had some chats with several of you, and it's been 10 years since I've gotten here, and I've got more gray hair, and you've got more gray hair. And I guess that's a good thing. We're still on this side of the earth. But I've been doing this work for 45 years, and there's two things that's crossed my mind that I want to share with you tonight. The first thing is I've never had a client come to me after I finished a job and said, I wish we hadn't have done the project right. Never had one say that. Never had a client say, I wish we hadn't done the project right. And I've never seen the cost of construction get less. So based upon those two comments, the first one's obvious, but the second is, if you intend to do something, now's the time to do it, because now is the least expensive time to do it. So I just want to tell you that I appreciate you having the confidence in us. The comments that you had tonight were excellent, and I hope that we were sufficient in answering most of your questions. And the ones that we didn't address, we'll certainly get to those later at the appropriate time. So thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Josh. And we'll be back in touch. And you can provide my office with electronic copy, but if any magistrate does not want to go through my office, they're invited to give you their card or contact you individually. Before we close tonight, I would like, Chief Smith, I'm going to throw you a curve here. And come on up. Are there any questions that any of the magistrates have regarding this facility that they'd like to ask Chief Smith? They've asked the architects. Architects have said what was needed. Does any Magistrate Woosley?
Chief Smith, did you ever think about adding an emergency operations center, an EOC, inside this building while we were building it, just to have another one down at that end of the county in case we ever need it?
You know, the building they're in now is not the safest building. A storm would wipe that building
Not the
out.
dispatch, just a separate EOC. Yeah, just a
I think
separate
it-
emergency
I think it'd be
operations center.
fine. You know, when you look at this space up here, you see the patrol division, there's 2 large rooms there.
Yeah.
Now, we actually looked at that as a flex area that could be used for something else in case of emergency. I mean, it's a big space. We got house people if we need to house people. So we looked at that as a good place for community events. We particularly wanted it on that side of the parking lot, knowing that that lot was not going to be filled with police cars, because citizens could park there and walk straight into that building, and it'd be an easy access for them. So yeah, we did think about that.
Okay.
And with an ELC building, there's plenty of room in this building to do this. Quite frankly, there is. And actually, it's a good idea, because it will be an essential building to withstand storms.
It will be, there'll be state monies that'll come along with us to help us put in an EOC inside that building. But, you know, county our size, eventually we're going to have some type of incident that will need something at that end of the county to set up some kind of EOC in.
You know, I will give Mr. Sharp and Mr. Varner a lot of credit with this. We talked about what are our current needs and what will our current needs be 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road. It's hard to predict exactly what we're going to need based upon the growth of the county. But it's easy to predict we're going to need something. There's no doubt about that. We are. You know, we're 46, 47 officers right now off the authorized strength. When the current building was built, it started off with 16, ended up with 18 officers. It's doubled, you know, and we're going to double. Population is going to double. With that, it's going to come more demands for the police department. This thing, what I like the best about this, quite frankly, is right now we manage 5 different areas. 5 different areas. We got the current police department. We got the CID building, the investigation, we got the towing lot, we got the old road department where we have evidence and stored cars, and the firing range. All 5 different locations. If we develop this space, we got everything in one location. And to me, that's a huge benefit, not just for us, but for the citizens. Mr. Tice, I know you don't like what the tow lot is. It's an issue. With this one, it would be in a concealed area, safe. What we have now is not secure safe. We've already had one catalytic converter stolen off a car, and I'm surprised we haven't had more, because it's not secure, it's not safe. We can't protect it all the time. With this one, we can. Magistrate Hawkins, you talked about the hard interview rooms. We deliberately asked for them to be put there, quite frankly I did, because it's a short distance from the sally point or the parking lot where you bring a suspect in. So you can get them inside a hard interview room quicker. And that's why we chose those locations, because it's a soft, I mean, it's just a short distance from either side of the building to bring somebody in. You know, being next to the women's bathroom, we could change it if necessary. But that's why we chose that particular area. Magistrate Dye, you talked about the extra office spaces. Again, my response to that would be, you know, in 10 years down the road, how many detectives are we going to need? I tell you today, we could use 2 more. We could use 2 more detectives today. One to specifically work on drug problems, and the other one to work specifically on domestic violence problems. So those 6 detectives' office, we could fill today if we had the personnel. And with that, when you have that many detectives, you have a chain of control over those detectives. A lot of them would be working at nighttime. You know, we don't have supervision at nighttime all the time. We could use extra supervision at nighttime, because of the demands and the type of situations that our officers run into. So when you look at the extra major's office, somewhat way down the road, would we need one specifically for criminal investigation to oversee that? Probably will someday. Probably will someday. Because right now we have a major that does administrative work and the SROs. That's a lot on his table and a lot of work for him to do. Plus, he oversees open records and redactions of videos, which is just about run. Angie's crazy. That's about all she does. So we're going to have to expand sooner or later, whether we like it or not. So that's why when we looked at this building, what do we need for future growth? So we kind of set our course as to what we think would be best for that. Now, I agree with you. Officers are mainly out in their cars working during the day. But that doesn't mean they don't come into the department sometime during the day. I will defend the fact that we asked for each sergeant to have their own office, because I think they need to have their own office space. What they have now is a room that they share, all 4 of them. It's cramped. It's crowded. It's not well set up for storage of personal equipment. And each of them need their own private space. They have private conversations with their officers. They need that private space. So I think that was a good idea in this design. Talked about the current training, the training room. The one big area you said nothing was going to be there in. Well, that's not quite correct. That's where we're going to build the tactical house inside of this place. Now, we can do it, probably a lot of that we could do ourselves, so we could contract it out to someone. But the purpose for that is to train entries into houses, around houses, up and down staircases, so our officers are the best prepared to handle any situation that they come into. And I will defend that with my last breath, that they need to be prepared to handle anything they run into. And I think in doing this, we give them the best opportunity to, if they encounter an adverse situation, to survive that adverse situation. And I will never back down from that. So that's the reason why we want to use part of that training area for a tactical house and shooting range. You couldn't build this building with 3 shooting ranges in that space for the kind of money we're talking about today. You couldn't do it. And I believe you would probably back me up on that with everything they have in there. So it's not like we make decisions just because we wanted a building that looked aesthetic or we wanted a building that had more space. We made decisions based upon what do we need currently and what are we going to need 10, 15 years down the road. And that's really what we're looking at. I won't be here probably when this thing's done. Who knows? But it still is what is best for our police department. Am I back on? It's still what is best, I think, for our police department, and it serves our community better. It serves it better. We can do a lot out of this one building that we cannot do now with 5 locations. Anybody got any questions?
Okay, Magistrate Logston.
Chief, I want to thank you for being our chief, first of all, and all the officers out there. When we started on this building, I thought we were going to retrofit the building for $5 to $8 million, and that was going to be it. $25–30 million is a lot of money. So if I known what I know right now, because this is brought to us, I think we should have spent the $15 million and put the building over by the jail on that flat spot over there and just kept this as a shooting range if I would have known this was coming down the road. I just think I would like to see the police office right in the middle of the county, which would be right there close to Buckner, so they could spread wherever they need to go. I mean, because you're down in Crestwood, you got to go run all the way up to Sycamore Run. And again, the police officers are scattered everywhere, so that's not necessarily true. I'm just worried about the space where it's going and spending that kind of money there.
Well, you know, Matt, I agree with you. I can't stand here and argue the fact that it's not going to be expensive. I can't. And I know it's a cost to the county. I understand that. I wish it wasn't, but I think Mr. Sharp is correct when he says it's not going to get any cheaper. You know, and when we bought this, when we originally bought the training facility, the firing range, we thought it was mainly going to just be the firing range. But then we have outgrown our building. That's all there is to it. Our current building, we have outgrown it. We've got 5 locations now that we have to supervise, and it's not convenient for anyone, not even the citizens. So we looked at, can this be made, can the current building truthfully be made into a police department? And early on, I think we realized there's a sound problem everywhere you go in that building. So some way, you're going to have to reduce the sound down to next to nothing if we're going to use that as a police department. Because I just can't envision having a domestic violence victim or an assault victim coming into our building and in the background listening to gunshots. I just don't think that is a very good way to treat someone who has been traumatized, to put them in a situation like that. So we realized, maybe not early on, but before we finally realized that it probably just wasn't going to work out. And there are things in this building that are in modern police departments. Soft interview rooms, hard interview rooms. I mean, they're necessary.
and they're necessary for children when you bring them in to interview them. You know, they need those kind of spaces. This thing captures it all, you know, and I think it's a good design, and I don't particularly care if the walls go this way, that way, which way. You know, I mean, I just think the way it's set up right now, it's a good flow. Because when you look at it, I mean, the building's all on one floor. It flows. I don't know. It's just my opinion.
The magistrate Logston referred to the, I think what we would all consider, you know, an area close to the geographic center of the county. Earlier, Magistrate Likens referred to, I guess what I'd call the population center of the county. Do you have, Magistrate Likens, specific information on that?
No, I don't, sir, but.
Pull your microphone down, please.
It would seem to me like most of the subdivisions, I have 29 in Goshen, okay? And then Crestwood, as it comes in from Oldham County, that's where all the subdivisions are. They're migrating this way. But it would seem to me if you took the mean population center of the county, it would be a lot closer to Crestwood.
I'd have to agree with that. You know, I don't have statistics with me. I don't even know if I could break them down, but, you know, just from what I know and what I've seen, you know, the majority of our runs is probably from 393 into the county line, majority of our activity. With the expansion of the core development, I mean, this is going to be a very hectic area at one time. And I think locating a police department in the area that it's going to be in would be beneficial to probably most of the county, most of the population of the county.
Judge.
Magistrate Woosley.
Chief, about mid-90s, the state police started looking at facilities. They looked at Post 5. They knew immediately that they had already outgrown an 1,800 square foot building. So they looked at planning for the future of the state police. They decided on moving that building to Campbellsburg. They designed and built a 23,000 square foot building or so that we moved into April of 2001. And by May of 2001, we had already outgrown that building. Yeah. So if anybody on this dais thinks right now that we're not going to need a larger building in 10 or 20 years, then they are absolutely crazy. I'm surprised we haven't heard if we could take rainwater and reclaim it so you guys don't have to have sinks or something. So I know it's going to be expensive. It's a tight pill for us to swallow, but we're going to have to do something to if we're going to utilize this building that we've already bought. So,
you know, I agree wholeheartedly. And I think there are some other benefits to this too, quite frankly. I mean, when you look at the building, it's a very impressive building. It's classic, it's professional. You know, we do have issues, as all police departments have, in recruiting. You know, when you come to our building now, okay, it's a nice building, but it's not quite a professional-looking police department. This building would attract officers to come to work for us. I mean, it's professional, it's classic-looking, it's well-designed, it offers a lot. I just think it has a lot of benefits here, I really do.
Okay, well, thank you. I think we can talk some more. Anybody have? All right. I'm sure everybody here is, thank you, Chief. Okay. Good job. We're going to wind up our meeting here tonight. I want to thank our architects for coming out from Hopkinsville. Be careful on your way home. I want to thank all our officers that came. All of them came, and particularly those that were able to stay. Thank you. You've learned what's going on here tonight. There was one person I was going to ask was here. Is the range master here tonight? Okay. I wanted to ask, for sake of public clarification, if he felt our range equipment was operating smoothly. I'm under the impression it is. Okay.
If it is, he's.
And so it wouldn't.
What was your question, Judge?
Well, I want to make sure our range equipment is operating, because that was something that they had in there as a possible replacement. There's a lot of things that could be knocked out possibly to, help lower the cost.
In looking at the construction of this building, one of the things we looked at is what do we currently have here that might need to be replaced. In the two pistol ranges and then rifle ranges, the targets are on trolleys. They're on big cables. They come up and down on big cables. The system that is in there right now is no longer made. So we're kind of lasting on borrowed time until some of this wears out. The one fortunate thing we have is we have 2 pistol range. We have a 7 and a 5, so that's 12 lanes, 12 sets of equipment. If some of it breaks down, we could move some until we could maybe get some more money to fix up the other one. The targeting system that he recommends is a very pricey system, quite frankly, but it's a video system where you can actually shoot and see where your rounds are hitting the target. Now, that is something that we do not need right now, but it is something probably later on down the line when the current equipment starts failing, we'll have to take a look at it. The ventilation system is functional. I don't know how long it's going to last. Someday probably we'll have to take a look at it, but it is nothing that has to go into the construction of this new building right now. Both that can wait.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. We've had a pretty long session here. Thank everybody for your attention. Any other points that anybody wants to make now?
Are you going to go down the line, or?
All right. I guess we'll skip the final public comment. I don't think we.
I thought that was it.
All right.
I thought that was it.
That was it. Well, all right. Sorry. We generally have a sentence or two at the end of each meeting. I don't know if anybody, Magistrate Likens, you want to say anything? Good night, Magistrate Tice. Good night, Magistrate Woosley.
Absolutely. I appreciate the night meeting. I know there's not a whole lot of support for that on here, but I think it's good for the public to see us out here at nighttime. I've got to put headlights in my car if we keep doing this, though. So. Judge, you had posted about an active shooter training at Baptist Hospital on Thursday, so
Yes.
from 8 to 4, so I wanted to mention that. On March the 10th, George Ramirez, who is a Department of Corrections employee here in the county, was killed in a line of duty accident in the county. I'm a little disappointed we didn't do more for the county to recognize that, but I wanted just to memorialize
Memorialize?
that word. And send well wishes to his family. And finally, this evening, the 8th Region Championship, South Oldham beat North Oldham in overtime,
Oh, they
53 to 50. So congratulations to them. They're going to the state now. So.
Thank you.
That's all I got, Judge.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Just one thing, Judge. Just remind fellow magistrates that I've been getting a lot of comments and notes and whatever about signs that are down both on state roads and county roads. So if folks see signs either on a state or county road, reach out to your magistrate and we'll get that passed along either to KYTC or the county road department to get those hopefully put back up.
All right,
That's
thank
all
you.
I have.
Magistrate Hounds.
Nothing, sir.
All right, Magistrate Hawkins.
I was supposed to mention something, and I'm going to ask my fellow Parks Committee members. That was at 10
o'clock this
a.m.
morning. So.
You didn't write it down?
I did, but I already put my stuff away.
All right. I'm not sure.
Can you come back to me? Because I think Magistrate
Hawkins?
Woosley's looking it up.
Oh. All right, Magistrate Dye.
Yes, Judge. I'm sure everyone in here has heard of the horrible death of actor Gene Hackman and his wife. We have in this county, you can call the dispatch and you can do, if you think someone in your neighborhood may need to be looked over, looked in on, it's just a safety check, the wellness check. There's a lot of different names for it. I had one of these situations in the subdivision I used to live in, and the lady called me up. She said, "I can't get my husband out of bed." I said, and he's an older guy, and I said, "Okay." And I was walking over there, and I knew he had been in the hospital and had some surgery done. I didn't know what kind of surgery. And I got over there and walked in the bedroom. He was dead. Now, I just think that, they're talking all about how Hackman's thing went. But if you see somebody in your neighborhood, knock on the door. It'll make you feel better to make sure that somebody doesn't have to die before their time or needlessly. Thank you.
Thank you. Magistrate Logston.
I just want to thank the county attorney for his guidance when we first started the meeting. That's what you're here to do. I appreciate it. You gave us your advice. You went with Keiko's advice also. So I just want to say Thank you for doing that.
All right.
Judge,
With that, appreciate everybody's attendance tonight. I think.
Judge.
Oh, Magistrate
We got
Hawkins.
the announcement that South Oldham Little League representatives came and spoke to us at the Parks Committee meeting today at 10 this morning. And on Friday night, April 11th, from 6 to 8, they're having a public parade and event there to kind of kick off the Little League season. And that's at Peggy Baker Park, South Oldham Little League.
Okay.
That's all I have today.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, thank you, everybody, for your attendance tonight. We appreciate it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.